What's going
Yo,
on?
what's goody?
As you can see, we have a different name
Things done changed.
and a different mission. Welcome to Save the Date. I'm one of your
Uh,
hosts, Heath,
I'm your other host, Jamie O.
and we're here to talk about why we changed our name and, more importantly, why dating matters. So, Jay and I had really a long time to think about why we had changed our name from Love God to Love Sex. While we love the name, as we started to follow in our work and follow in our mission of speaking to men and women, and then more so women over the years about what we're doing about sex, love, and relationships, a common theme kept emerging, and that's people felt disconnected. People are lonely. And the more that we thought about it, the more that we heard about it, and the more we dialogue between each other, we realized there was a common theme, which is people want to be connected. People want to be in relationships, but they're missing the catalyst. They're missing the impetus, the push that brings it all together. And we realize that push, that impetus is actually dating. Why did we focus on dating? Because dating is a lost art. As Jay and I would say, make dating great again. Because dating was really the art and really the practice, to be very frank with you, of meeting people, befriending strangers, enhancing your network, and whether you dated someone and it was successful, or you dated someone and you decided to be friends and they just stayed in the periphery of your life, each experience allowed you to become stronger as a human being, to learn more about yourself, and to bestow upon someone else your greatness, your uniqueness, your specialness to them. And they would go through the same process. And in that way, it goes with the old adage, a rising tide lifts all boats. And because we've seen a decline in dating, we've also seen a decline in friendships, and a decline in connections, and a decline in relationships. And for us, our focus, our ministry, our life at this juncture is dedicated to helping people to connect. And that's why we've changed the name to Save the Date, because we really do want to save dating.
It's an important practice
Yeah. Yeah.
in
It's
building our society and finding out, like you said, about yourself, about other people.
mhm.
I think it can really be a wonderful growth tool, personal development.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody I know started at some point and they matriculated, you know,
Graduated.
graduated, they've gone to another degree.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's good for all of us to continue in this process of learning ourselves and learning others. And like you said, dating is a great way to do it. And I
Yes.
want to just jump in here and say dating doesn't necessarily have to end in a romantic
hmm
relationship.
hmm
We simply define it as an agreement between two people to share time and space. And when you come and you bring your best self to a date or to a hangout session, whatever you want to call it, as he said, it lets you know not only about other people, but it helps you learn about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really an intersubjective experience. It's an exchange between two people with consent and agreement to learn about each other, to broaden the conversation about their life, their worldview, and also about that other person's life and that other person's worldview. It really is a great opportunity for promoting togetherness. And like Jay just said, it doesn't have to end in romance or in a sexual encounter, but it can end in greater friendships, a greater knowing, and also a greater sense of self, which is just important for where we're at in the society, especially as the Surgeon General announced, where we are in a loneliness and social isolation
Mm,
epidemic.
epidemic, man.
And we're going to get more into that as we get into our episodes. And this season and future seasons, we're going to be doing a lot more with dating, a lot more different content. But let's get into today's episode, which is why dating matters. And we want to talk about this because we really want to reclaim the power of connection and the magic behind dating. Jay, why don't you kick it off? Because, I know we've talked about this. And where do you think about this whole idea of connection and what it means for us related to dating?
Well, we kind of already touched on it, but to me, the thing I think about first and foremost is that connection drives self-discovery.
Mm,
Um, I was watching The Brothers
that's a
the
great
the
movie.
other day. Yeah. And there's this scene where Jennifer Lewis's character is talking to ladies, and she's just like, now she contextualized it talking about men, but I'm just going to say anybody. But
hmm
she was basically saying, you don't even really know what kind of person you are until you know what kind of person you want to date or what kind of person you want to end up
Mm,
with.
Mm.
And I think that says a lot, right? So when we're talking about connection, drive, and self discovery, it took me a long time to realize that I'm an emotional lover. Like it's hard for me to really just lay down with a body. You know what I mean? I've
Yeah,
done it.
you're not. Yeah, yeah, but you're not processor.
Right, exactly. I'm practiced in that, but that's not my preference.
Yeah, yeah, that's not your specialty.
It's not my specialty or expertise. But again, this is kind of what we're talking about. It took me doing some trial and error. Obviously growing up, some of the examples I saw was like, yo, you slay the broads. You take them back to the cave.
Knock it down real quick.
You blow the back out, you bend it up in them, however you want to name it.
Hollering.
Ski and you skeet and skedaddle. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
But
yeah. See you next lifetime,
it's
if
I
even
guess I'll
that.
see you next lifetime. Shout out to Ibadu.
Yeah.
But it for me, I think it's just it took me a while to learn that I'm more of an emotional lover, and when it comes to intimacy, your connection is everything.
Mm.
That's what I would say first and foremost. What about you?
Yeah, connection is everything. I actually said connection is supreme.
Mm,
That the ultimate ask of you to bond with someone else while also learning to bond with yourself is so sacred that you really have to understand when you're able to achieve that level of togetherness, that bond, as I said, you really step into a world that's all your own, that no one else can step into. I heard it once said that, marriage is like a fingerprint. Everyone is a fingerprint, but every fingerprint is unique. So every marriage is unique. But I would say the same thing even about dating, that your opportunity to bond with somebody where they are in that particular juncture in their life. If you started dating them at 25, you break up, you get back with them when they're 32. So you dated them for 2 years, you break up, and then you get back at 32. That's a different person. That's a unique bond. And we're missing that because you are literally delving into the worlds of someone's soul. And I mean worlds plural. There's so much depth and richness there that if you take the time and the effort to really learn about them, spend that time with them, and take your dating life seriously with them, you're going to be exposed to a whole new version of yourself and a whole new version of your future, even if that person's not in it. So that would be the other part that to keep in mind, right? So, connection is leading to self-discovery, but connection is supreme. And I think this has just been challenged by many factors, as most problems are multivariate, right? There are multiple variables that contribute to them. But one of them that I believe is causing challenges is really swipe culture. This idea of, as this one comedian said on Instagram when he did the skit around dating, it's like collecting matches. You're not really connecting to people, you're collecting matches. And so we see that the app is set to be gamified to keep you on the app. So you're just swiping, but is the algorithm fine-tuned to help you find a connection? Can you say a little bit more about that even for yourself? Like, I mean, where do you think swipe culture is in the midst of all this?
well, I mean, you talked about even being on the apps is kind of, to me, it's a little misleading because swipe culture, it kind of demeans people down to just a number. You're just a
Mm,
match or a profile. Like you said, it's not really about acquiring a connection or building a connection. That's the hope, but I
mm,
think the execution on the app is kind of like you see a match, you see somebody you like, and on the basis of what you see, that's
mm,
what you swipe on.
mm,
So it's like it's the process of using an app is supposed to be like meeting someone in person, but you miss out on all of the initial conversation. On an app, it seems like small talk. It
mm,
seems like something you don't want to do. But if y'all met in person, if you met out at a social event
mm,
or at the library or the grocery store or something like that, you can kind of shoot the shit and it's not a problem. But on an app, just kind of reading, how was your day or what are you doing? Like it seems like small talk. And so a lot of things on an app that are supposed to substitute the process of what we go through in real time, in real life. I don't know. I think it nasties out the game. It dirties up the game. And I think a lot of time people end up feeling, like there's something missing there.
yeah, yeah.
I would say even a lot of times for me, I've been using dating apps as like field research just to talk to people and see what kind of conversations they're having out in the dating sphere. And when I tell you, man, I mean, I talk to women, so they're always
Yeah.
telling me about how, yo, dudes ain't got no game out here. They don't know how to converse. They don't know how to hold a conversation. It's just like, a couple of simple word
YWD,
answers,
ASL,
all of that.
all that
Yeah.
original AOL languages,
ASL, H6
H6
location
location.
type stuff for real. Um, but yeah, man, I think that's what the swipe culture has kind of done. It's kind of reduced the process to it kind of commodifies people.
Yeah. And I think because of the commodification, people are craving realness.
Mm-hmm.
They're craving realness. They want to ask themselves, or they're asking the question, what's really real? And in that craving of realness, they're trying to understand, how do I achieve that? And I think you achieve realness by taking smart risks with people that you meet in an effort to really get to know them and yourselves. I keep coming back to this point of knowing someone else and yourself. And the smart risk to me is, you don't just go up to a stranger, and people have done this, so I'm not going to deride that process, but that's not what we're advocating. Dating for us is getting off of the screen, getting back out into IRL, real life, be in real life, and actually dialoguing and connecting with people, going for walks, going to the museum, going to dinner, going to the opera, going to the Met, going bowling, going to the chop house, anything and everything that you could think of, you can do as a date, but doing it in a way that allows you to come out of your comfort zone and really connect. I had a conversation with someone today where I talked about dating, and one of the things that was remarkable about dating prior to the advent of technology and the internet and really the growth of swipe culture is when you were outside in the real world and you met somebody, it usually was through a choke point of discomfort. What do I mean by that? Maybe you went out dancing with some friends, you met somebody, and they really weren't your type on paper, but you got to know them, or they did something endearing or charming to you. And next thing you know, they turn around and that's the story you're telling your grandkids 50, 60 years later. Like, your grandmother wasn't even on my radar. I don't even like him like that. But, she just did something nice to me. And then, your uncle was in the hospital. And she brought that up and brought some flowers. And after that, I saw her totally different. And you got the old man voice. But I've heard stories like that because when you run, like I said, real life allows for these serendipitous exchanges. And I call it choke points of discomfort. When you're out on the line and you're waiting on a long line in the grocery store and you just happen to lock eyes with somebody, and it's like an awkward moment, but it's also something intriguing about it. And then maybe, you walk out to the parking lot. Hey, my name is so-and-so. I saw you in the thing, and you just start talking. And that talking now leads to a first date, a second date, and the next, it leads to an engagement party, so forth and so on. It is something that you don't get online because we're ruling by our preferences. And while our preferences are interesting and they mean a lot to us, I'm always, and this, Jay, very, very hesitant when people always want to keep the pedal to the metal about getting what they want when they want
Mm-hmm.
it. I don't know that everything that's good or beneficial for you comes from you getting what you want when you want it. And we're a very self-indulgent culture as an American culture. And the moment you're not indulged, yourself isn't indulged, now there's a problem. But I would say a lot of the dating that historically happened in these I keep using this term, choke points of discomfort at the club, at a bar, at a bowling alley, through a friend's wedding, a friend's engagement party. I mean, the movie was it the classic movie Wedding Crashers, funerals, Will Ferrell's character. They happen in these really weird situations where you met some amazing people and you were brought together through circumstances that you would not have designed on paper, but were designed the best for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I just think that's where we have to, think about it. And the key word for me is just like intimacy. What does this really have to say about intimacy and the importance of intimacy?
Mm. I mean, I think that's one of those concepts that can kind of warp the dating process
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because I think a lot of people think of intimacy as like physical, sexual engagement.
Hmm.
And like we were saying, dating doesn't have to end in that. That doesn't even have to be a part of dating. Dating could really just be you learning how to talk to women. You can learn how to talk to women and how to treat a woman just by going out on dates. And they don't have to necessarily be all the activities you named, because I think that's going to be something that comes up in this conversation with the income inequality and people not being able to cover certain
Afford.
bills for themselves.
Yeah,
It's like, yo, dating could get quite expensive out here.
yeah.
So it's like you got to be creative on coming up with different activities for y'all to enjoy each other, get to know each other. And again, it's getting to know yourself too. So you may slip up and say something on the date or in the process of getting to know them, putting your foot in your mouth or something like that. Like, that's okay. You got to be okay with that. Like, that
Yeah,
is a normal process of getting to know
yeah.
somebody. I think there's always an awkward stage. and this person is not accustomed to how you speak on a regular. So you may say, I remember one time this girl was talking to me and she had said something about her cooter, and I was like, what? I mean, I just, the context clue was there, but I was just like, I hated that she used that word, and I was just like, it turned me off for a second. But she was just like, this is what I call it on the regular. That's what I call it. Like it's nothing
Mhm,
for you to get upset about, but it was just something that was awkward for me at the time, you know.
mhm,
But I
mhm.
think there's always that awkward point of getting to know somebody, and like I said, you're getting accustomed to their culture, their personal culture, how they move and how they do things. So there's always going to be that.
Yeah. That's the fascinating thing about dating is it allows you to sample life through the lens of another individual. And you're talking about that, right? You this person said, "Hey, that's what I call, my private area. I call it by my cooter." And it allows you to, okay, I'm taking in life through your lens, and it teaches you a lot more about life and love and the richness and diversity of life. As I mentioned before, the word richness, I keep coming back to that because the depth of it is really unfathomable, and you really have an opportunity to just spend all the time you can getting to know this person. If that works, that just becomes a lifetime pursuit. I remember David Data. My friend had been to a couple of David Data seminars. For those who don't know, he's a famous kind of intimacy relationship coach. He wrote the book Intimate Communion, and he's famous for the book The Way of the Superior Man. And that book is nothing about being superior in the current big guy, aggressive male sense, but in the way of service. And in one of his seminars, a guy raised his hand and said, "Hey, I'm learning all this stuff about connecting with women and making, a woman fall in love and swoon. I want to know, how do I do this with multiple women?" And David Data got up, stopped, and said, "You don't have enough love for one woman.
Man,
You don't have enough love for
for
one
one,
woman. For
for
one
one.
woman." And what he's highlighting there is the fact that when you're in that intimate communion with somebody, when you're on, in the case of dating, that person really is poised and can, in a good scenario, in a good date, receive everything you have and take in more. And you think that by spreading your seed, so to speak, that you're doing justice to yourself, but you're actually doing and committing an injustice, because really the goal of life, of success in anything, is to go deep and to become an expert in something. And so you're not becoming an expert in another person, but you are reaching deepening and deepening and deeper levels of intimacy, which come with their own rewards. And I can't name them because each relationship offers different rewards for the deeper layers, or the deeper levels rather, of intimacy.
It's so funny you bring up that story. That's always been my reason for declining threesomes. Like all
Mm.
of the threesomes that I was recruited for and asked to join, I was just like,
Recruiter.
oh yeah, the recruitment process is real.
There's a recruiter here.
We need that resume, bro. Send
Yeah,
that
yeah,
ASAP.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
but nah, man, it's always been, yo, it takes enough to please and satisfy thoroughly one woman. And like you said, if the goal is to be an expert, pleasing and getting off one woman thoroughly
Mhm.
is gonna take time. So you
Yeah,
you ain't got time to be split between these two homes, these two jobs, these two anything. You really got to focus on that one. So cheer,
sure.
shout out to David Data for that, because
Yeah.
I think that's one of those things that a lot of men could definitely benefit from, hearing that kind of mindset. Like, yo, nobody's saying you can't be, Mr. Loving Man, but try being that to one woman.
Hmm.
See how
Yeah.
you fare with that.
Try the path of commitment. Like I said, it offers rewards. I can't tell you what they are because they are unique to each relationship, but they do offer rewards. I mean, something as simple as, I remember a guy who got married to his wife. They had known each other since childhood. She paid for his education. Then he helped raise their children. He was the primary caregiver, picking them up. And then, she did this and did that. And he told me at the end of the day, he goes, "I believe that at the end of a marriage, when it's all said and done, the ledger's equal, because of the ways in which you guys mutually sacrifice for each other, if you're
Mm-hmm.
open to
Mm-hmm.
stepping into those sacrificial roles at the right time to support each other." And that honestly starts with dating, that starts with coupling, that starts with connecting. uh that example I just gave really ties into my what I really want to say is, dating is a gateway to finding love. It's a
Mm-hmm.
gateway. It's not the only way. I mean, you're going to find people who do well on the apps. You're going to find people who, they start a one night stand and they end up being together. It was supposed to be a one time date and they end up having a family together. There are other ways of doing this. Just like people who get rich through the lottery, and there's people who put money in the Vanguard index fund and they get rich. We do know, as I like to say historically in our old podcast, tried and true methods. What are tried and true methods of getting rich? What are tried and true methods of building wealth? What are tried and true methods of building a family and a committed life together? For us, that's dating. That is the gateway to finding love. And the more that you come out of yourself and come out of your creature comforts and your sphere of influence, and even more importantly, your sphere of preferences, you open yourself up to a new world and a new reality that may offer better results and more rewarding relationships and connections than you previously thought you could get. And I think that's just important for people to realize that this idea of dating, this idea of going out and just connecting with somebody, talking to them, most importantly, listening to them, making sure you're showing them that you are listening, and then dialoguing with them about what you said. I'm reading the book Super Communicators by Charles Duhigg, in my New York Times writer, and he says, the purpose of communication and the purpose of conversation is to connect. And when you get into meaningful conversations, you really want to take the time to learn about the other person, their point of view, and how they see the world and themselves in it. And that, to me, is the essence of dating. And
Yeah.
that really does put you on a path to finding love.
Even if that love doesn't end, like we said, in romance, it builds meaningful connection. It builds meaningful relationships for you to really like date somebody. And I mean, like anything or most things, dating is on a spectrum. You're going to have some people that define it really casually. You're going to have some people that are, that define it in a really super deep and meaningful, thorough kind of way, that they are looking for it to lead to love, a romantic, committed, monogamous relationship or whatever. But wherever you are on the spectrum, every date that you go on is teaching you about yourself and somebody else. So never look at it as like a failure. Even if it doesn't go the way you want, you can either learn how to do something or how not to do something.
Mm.
So I feel like, changing your perspective about dating is going to change your experience. The old saying, if you could change your mind, you could change your life, like that type of thing. Because like you started off talking about, we hear so much about how hard dating is. And we know it is. I mean, it's between the income inequality, between the divisiveness between men and women, and the gender wars and all these different types of things. Like it can be incredibly hard. But I think we're saying it matters because at the end of the day, it's all about connection that really matters. It's not about, the dream that we've been sold that dating is going to end, you're going to end up finding your person or the one. It's really not always about that. It's just really about connection at the end of the day.
Yeah. Finding that opportunity to be yourself around someone else who's finding an opportunity to be themselves around you.
Mm-hmm.
That is just a sublime experience. Now, you just mentioned something that I want to touch on in regards to that. Do you have women that you've dated that you're still friends with or helped out? Or, I mean, what are some of those other relationships that came out of some of the dates that you went on?
Definitely friendships, some business partnerships, or I would say relationships because it wasn't really a partnership. But, some people that put me on for jobs.
Hmm.
Some women have definitely like circulated my resume around when I was, in the market looking for a gig or whatever. Um, Even to the point of like people meeting the family, and then you find out that your family has something in common with their family, and y'all end up doing stuff as a larger group. So it's like I've had a few different outcomes from women that I've gone on dates with.
Hmm.
I think with me, what I have learned how to do is take the pressure off of it by calling it hanging out or just meeting up. Now, obviously, what you and I are talking about in the context of what we're talking about, that's dating too. But I try to take the pressure off of it by removing the demand for some kind of
Romance?
physical tension or romance. Yes. So, like, we can acknowledge that there's an attraction there, that there may be chemistry, but let's put some boundaries up in the beginning so we don't just like be led by that temptation or that tension, that chemistry.
Hmm. Hmm.
And what I have learned is that, like, yo, when you take the time to get to know someone and you can kind of temper that physical tension, it can lead to some really great relationships. Some
Hmm.
that I still have women that I'm going on dates with that will reach out to me and be like, yo, hey, I met this guy, or I've been seeing this guy, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is what he said to me. What do you think he means? So it shows me that they care about my opinion just as a person, my
Hmm.
judgment, how I look at things, how I view things. And that just came from going out with them. You know what I mean? We didn't necessarily need to go and spend $200 at Nobu, or, you know what I'm saying? We didn't have to do any kind of crazy activity. The activity wasn't even really important. It was a company. And that's kind of what I'm talking about, right? When you stop looking at dating as just the means to romance, you get to just go and hang out with people and connect and find like these commonalities that y'all may have without any of the tension, without,
Mhm.
you know what I mean, some kind of agenda that might get in the way of you authentically, genuinely connecting with somebody. So, I mean, I think we've talked about why it matters. To me, I think at the end of the day, I think it helps you, it can reveal to you what your patterns are about yourself, like what we said in terms of self-discovery. If you're really looking at yourself and how you date, the type of people you end up choosing, a lot of the
Mhm.
times it may show you where you need to make different choices. It may show
Yeah.
you where you need to change. I heard somebody talking about when you love yourself, you will choose better for yourself. And I think a lot of us have learned that it's not so much that we are against ourselves, we hate ourselves, but sometimes we don't realize how much we don't love ourselves.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so dating can help you find that out. You know what I
True
mean?
indeed.
Like, yo, I might need to stay away from the club for a little bit and maybe
Mhm.
try to meet somebody over here. Or I maybe need to stop going out and fronting like I got it to take chicks on all of these expensive dates when, you know, my bills are overdue or whatnot. I mean, it's all different types of things, but
Yeah,
it'll reveal to you your patterns.
that's true. That's true. Let's wrap it up because we're at time. Guys, this is again Heath and Jay.
Or save the date.
Save the date.
We're
We're
gonna
gonna
have
put
more
our
coming for
socials.
y'all.
Yeah, we're gonna put our socials in the notes for the show, and just stay tuned. We're gonna be just publishing episodes and doing some different interviews and some different content formats. So stay tuned. Thanks for listening. Until next time, take care, guys.
Later.